Welcome to Unfaithful Secret, your go-to channel for love affairs, betrayal, and revenge that will keep you hooked. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more thrilling stories. Let me introduce myself. Not because I want you to know who I am, but because you need to understand how I got here, how everything unraveled. I never thought my life would turn into something that felt like a twisted movie plot. But here I am. And it all started with my sister. She was my best friend, my confidant, the one person who knew me better than anyone else. We had our differences, of course. But no matter what, we always found our way back to each other. She was the kind of woman people admired, smart, kind, beautiful. The type who made love look effortless. So when she met him, it wasn't surprising how fast things moved. Her husband. The man who swept her off her feet, who made her believe in forever. I still remember the day she introduced him to me. She had that look in her eyes, the look. The one that said, "This is it." And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Their love story felt like something straight out of a fairy tale. But fairy tales always have hidden monsters, don't they? I just never expected the monster to be his brother. Weddings are supposed to be magical. A night filled with love, laughter, and promises of forever. And for the most part, my sister's wedding was exactly that. The venue was breathtaking, the music perfect, and the drinks flowing endlessly. I wasn't even a big drinker. But that night, I made an exception. I was at the bar, sipping on something light, when I felt someone step beside me. "You don't strike me as the soft drink type," a voice said. I turned, expecting to see some random wedding guest. But instead, I found myself looking at him. My sister's husband's brother. The one no one really talked about. The one who had been a ghost in the family, rarely around, barely mentioned. Until that night. He held out a glass, filled with something dark and strong. "Try this," he said, smirking. "Trust me." And for some reason, I did. I took a sip. And instantly, I knew it was too strong for me. It burned, sharp and heavy, making my head feel light almost immediately. He watched me with amusement. "Not your thing?" I shook my head, swallowing hard. "Not really." "Good," he said. "Means you'll feel it faster." Something about the way he said it sent a chill down my spine. But I brushed it off. Maybe he was just teasing. Maybe I was overthinking. The night went on, and he never left my side. At first, it felt harmless. He was easy to talk to, charming in a way that was different from his brother. Darker. Unpredictable. And yet, I stayed. Because part of me was curious. And that curiosity, it was the beginning of everything. He kept refilling my drink. I told myself I was pacing myself, that I wasn't really drinking that much. But the room felt warmer. My thoughts, slower. He leaned in closer, his voice smooth. "So, tell me. Do you believe in fate?" I laughed. "Fate?" "Yeah," he said, swirling his drink. "The idea that certain people are meant to cross paths. That some things are just inevitable." I frowned, trying to focus. "I don't know. Maybe." His gaze never wavered. "Good answer." And then, he smirked. As if he knew something I didn't. And maybe, he did. Somewhere in the blur of laughter, music, and drinks, I realized something. I hadn't seen my sister in a while. I turned, scanning the dance floor, the tables. Nothing. Where was she? I shifted uneasily, looking back at him. I should go find my sister. He didn't move. Didn't look the least bit concerned. "She's fine," he said. "This is her night. Let her enjoy it." His hand brushed against mine. A light touch. Innocent. But was it? Because suddenly, I was hyper-aware of how close he was. Of the way his fingers lingered a second too long. Something in my gut screamed at me. Something wasn't right. I should have walked away. But I didn't. And that was the second mistake. We ended up outside. I don't remember how. 1 minute, we were inside, surrounded by laughter and music. The next, we were alone beneath the stars, the cool air hitting my flushed skin. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head. I think I need some water, I muttered. He tilted his head, watching me. Or maybe you just need another drink. I shook my head. No, I'm done. He smiled. But there was something behind it. Something unreadable. Are you? He asked. And for the first time that night, I realized. This wasn't just a casual conversation. This wasn't just drinks at a wedding. This was something else. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to know what. I don't remember everything that happened next. Only pieces. His hand on my arm, guiding me somewhere. His voice, low and smooth, saying things I couldn't quite grasp. A sense of something shifting. By the time my mind cleared, I was somewhere I shouldn't have been. With someone I never should have trusted. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I got there by choice. Or if he made that choice for me. I wish I could say I sobered up in time. That I pulled away, that I walked back into that wedding and pretended none of it happened. But I didn't. I let him lead me further into the darkness, away from the lights, the music, the safety of the crowd. I don't even remember how we ended up in that secluded part of the venue, the garden area behind the reception hall. The one no one was paying attention to. I should have turned back. But his voice was smooth, wrapping around me like a fog. You trust me, don't you? The words felt like a trick. And maybe that's exactly what they were. Because the moment I nodded, everything changed. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. You know, he murmured, his voice low, you're different from what I expected. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Expected? He smiled, slow and deliberate. I've heard things about you. That made me pause. What things? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small silver flask, and took a slow sip. Then he held it out to me. One last drink. Everything in me screamed no. But I took it. Because I wanted to prove something. To him. To myself. I didn't know. But the second I swallowed, I knew I had made a mistake. The world tilted. Everything blurred. And the last thing I remember was his voice, low, amused. Relax. I've got you. When I opened my eyes, the sky was lighter. The music had faded. The wedding was over. And I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I was in a car. His car. I sat up fast, my head pounding. What the hell? He was in the driver's seat, one hand on the wheel, the other holding a cigarette between his fingers. Morning, he said, smirking. Panic shot through me. Where are we? Relax, he said. I got you out of there before anyone noticed. Before anyone noticed. My stomach twisted. What happened last night? He exhaled smoke slowly, watching me. What do you think happened? I stared at him, my breath shallow. I didn't know. And that was the scariest part. I should have gone straight to my sister. I should have told her everything. But what was there to tell? I had gaps in my memory, a sick feeling in my stomach, and a brother-in-law who was looking at me like he knew something I didn't. I wanted to demand answers. But the words wouldn't come. And he knew it. Don't look so worried, he said, tapping his cigarette against the edge of the car window. You had fun last night. I swallowed hard. Did I? His smirk deepened. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a trap. And I had already fallen in. Back at the hotel, everything felt off. I found my sister in her honeymoon suite, glowing, happy, completely unaware that something inside me had shifted. "Where were you last night?" she asked, laughing. "I barely saw you after dinner." I forced a smile. "Just, got caught up with people." She didn't press. And I didn't tell her. Because how could I? What would I even say? That I woke up in her new brother-in-law's car, unsure of how I got there. That something about him scared me in a way I couldn't explain. That I felt like I owed him something, and I didn't even know why. I couldn't say any of it. So I kept quiet. And that silence. It cost me everything. The text started a few days later. At first, they were casual. "Hey. Thinking about that night?" Then, bolder. "You still owe me a drink." Then, the worst one. "You don't want your sister knowing everything, do you?" That's when I knew. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The first time I ignored his text, I told myself it would be the last. That if I didn't respond, he would let it go. That this was just a game to him, one that would get boring if I refused to play. But I was wrong. Because ignoring him, that was exactly what he wanted. The next message came at midnight. "I hope you're not thinking about ignoring me." Then another. "It would be a shame if your sister found out what you were really up to that night." And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, he sent a photo. A blurry image of me outside the reception hall. Stumbling. Drunk. Him, holding me up. It wasn't proof of anything. But it looked like something. And that's all that mattered. "We should talk," he texted. "Tomorrow." No excuses. I should have gone to my sister. I should have told her everything. But instead, I found myself sitting across from him at a bar 2 days later, my hands clenched into fists beneath the table. "Relax," he said smoothly, sipping his drink. "This isn't blackmail." I glared at him. "Then what is it?" He smirked. "A favor." I scoffed. "A favor? For what?" He leaned in, his voice lower. "You'll see." And just like that, I knew. I was in deeper than I ever meant to be. It started small. A little errand here. A harmless favor there. "Pick up something for me. Drop this off at a hotel. Tell my brother I was with you last night, will you?" Every time, I told myself this is it. The last one. But there was always another. And another. Until I stopped keeping track. Because somehow, without realizing it, I had become part of his world. It was supposed to be simple. One last favor. That's what he called it. "Just go to the hotel," he said. "Pick up the envelope. Walk away. Easy." Except, when I got there, there was no envelope. There was just him. And the look in his eyes told me. I wasn't leaving that place the same person. "You're not scared, are you?" That's what he asked me when I hesitated at the door. I wanted to say yes. To walk away, to forget all of this, to pretend none of it ever happened. But I didn't. I stepped inside. And that night? That's the night I lost myself completely. Now, I need to ask you something. If someone held a secret over your head, if they had the power to ruin everything, would you fight back? Or would you let them pull you deeper? Because I had a choice that night. But I didn't take it. And that's the biggest regret of my life.